a year down the track now, people's emotions and feelings about what's happened and what could possibly happen is a broad spectrum. 2011, it was the 100-year flood. Last year, the 1 in 100-year flood came back again. And as we moved into spring this year, things were aligning very poorly for us, and it looked like it could occur yet again.
On reflection, we're pretty happy with the way we handled the whole thing, and we've attracted quite a few new members. We're to the point now where we're full, which is a good position to be in. Whether that's due to the floods or what, we never know, but it definitely hasn't done us any harm in that area.
It is a lot of work after floods. We only really started feeling the impact just before the spring when bills are high and stuff like that.
The way I sort of look at it is what we could have had last year, we're getting this year. We're still 12 months behind, but the crops are as good or if not better, especially dry land.
To try and cover the cost of the floods last year, we've had to milk 3 times a day to get more cash flow. Creditors we had, they've been really good to us, as well as the banks, and everyone's really looked after us to get to where we are now.
The next stage is we'll get a surveyor in and say, right, this is where we think what we did for this flood worked really well. It'll be based off what we did with that, I reckon. Just move the banks to a permanent position and utilise them from there.
Only I would change if it could flood in the middle of January when we don't have any crops in the paddock.
Yeah.
Would be the best thing for us.
Yeah, there was a large impact on farmers and crops last year, but this year they're looking exceptionally well, particularly where the floods went last year. We might nearly make up for what we lost last year, but I think we'll strip a bumper crop, which is very good.
I think town's bounced back very well. Certainly, probably the most obvious one is the community awareness of how much Kundruk is under threat. Certainly identified the community as being short of preparedness, but there was never a disaster plan or a component disaster plan for flooding. So that's certainly been addressed by the Shire, so there's certainly positives that come out of negatives.
Those areas where people worked together and had people willing to accept those responsibilities, they came through flood event far more healthily, far more effectively than people who decided to just sit on their own and not work together. So having an event that will bring people together and enhance that bond, to me they're absolutely critical.
Kundruk has had something on nearly every week, or at least every couple of weeks there has been something on, and various other activities.
A lot of free events, people appreciated that because a lot of the hard work was done by the volunteers, just people showing up. So yeah, it is important.
We're a small community, we're widely spread, so something like this helps to bring the community together. It helps people to form a bond which holds up and assists them in times of crisis.
The flood event still gets brought up occasionally by the kids. Anytime we've had a little bit of rain, it often invokes a conversation about floods because the kids associate rain with flooding. So that's been a really interesting conversation to navigate. Just need to make sure that they know that having a bit of rain doesn't necessarily mean that their house is going to be surrounded by water again. So they don't feel fear around that, they're just more inquisitive more than anything.
The flood event certainly did impact our young people, probably more on an emotional and mental health level than the actual physical floods for our community. But the floods came on the back of 2 years of COVID, where things were very unsettled for our young people, and certainly the media and social media contributed to the young people being very concerned and worried about what could be and will it happen to them in this community.
We've had a really big few years with lots of challenges, and it's so important at this time to be extra kind, generous, and stay connected to each other. Feelings and emotions are a normal part of recovery, so it's important to get support if you would like to. At Northern District Community Health, we offer counselling services, so please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Gannawarra Shire Council also offers support, as does Rural Financial Counselling Services and Mallee Family Care. We're all here, we're all ready, and we'd love to hear from you.
Because the future for small communities is always going to be able to work together to achieve a good result. We won't save everything, but we're hoping we'll achieve a good result for a wide number of people.
The community involvement we couldn't have done it without them. Simple as that, yeah.
I think having the support from the local community, the schools and the centres that our kids went to was really important too, because they allowed us to sort of keep that sense of normality. They weren't putting pressure on parents to have to continue that routine as such. It was more about just what was best for the kids at the time.
Is the importance of a community bond and community togetherness, and we need to forge that in whatever way we can. And it may be that somebody who doesn't want it needs to take the lead in their community or their area and call people together and start to form that bond. That's where you get real success and you can really achieve something as a small group. Without that, I'm sure the effects on our community from the last flood would have been far worse, I know they would have, and far more widespread.
The Gannawarra continues to recover from the devastating October-December 2022 floods, our second major flood event this century. 2022 floods impacted 44% of the Gannawarra Shire's landmass, and our proximity on an active floodplain means that flooding will continue to be a high risk for our council and residents. Residents who lost their homes during this flood event remain at various stages. Some have moved home, others are rebuilding, and others continue to work through decisions as to what the next step should be. Our residents and communities are highly resilient. In times of hardship and crisis, we come together to support each other. This community spirit was evident as we responded to the flood emergency in 2022, and this generosity is still evident 12 months on. Volunteering is a strong feature of Gannawarra's communities, and dedicated volunteers continue to work hard to ensure that Gannawarra remains a great place to live, visit and to enjoy. I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of the community over the past 12 months and the reconnections being made through past and upcoming community events and activities. As a council, we continue to work with our residents to recover, whether it is restoring roads and levees, mitigating future flood risks, or advocating to all levels of government for support. We are here for our communities. Thank you to residents who have participated in this video. Despite the challenges experienced over the past 12 months, these stories build hope and confidence for the future for us all.